Decently. Female staff have been told not to show any cleavage, wear brightly colored nails, braids or hair extensions, sleeveless or transparent blouses. Men must wear long-sleeved shirts, jackets and ties, while trousers should not be tight-fitting. Staff failing to comply with will be disciplined. The guidelines issued by the Ministry of Public Service apply to all non-uniformed civil servants. But there is a feeling that female staff are the main focus on the new rules. While women will be allowed to wear pantsuits, they have been warned not to wear any tight-fitting clothing. Dresses and skirts must be at least at knee length. And here is more from our broadcasting partners, NBS Uganda.
Code for public servants is enshrined in the Ugandan Public Service Standing Orders of 2010, which stipulates that a public officer is required to dress decently in relation to the acceptable standards of the Ugandan community. According to Adam Wanga, the Director of Human Resource in Public Service, this order has not been respected by a majority of public servants who come dressed anyhow to office.
We had to address it and clarify, because sometimes, for example, the young ladies dress indecently, they don't know. So this is just to make it clearer to everybody that this is decent, this is not decent.
She says that officers who dress in a manner that does not portray the good image are the reason this circular has been issued.
Generally, in Uganda, and we are talking about generally, that means the majority, do not believe in people exposing their body parts which should otherwise be covered. So, and people in Uganda have a perception of what a public officer should look like.
According to the circular, decent dress code is dressing in a manner that is socially acceptable and generally considered to be smart, good, reasonable, and portrays a good image of the public service. Notable from the circular, female public officers are to wear a skirt or dress that is not above the knees with a short long or short-sleeved blouse. Officers should avoid wearing sleeveless, transparent blouses and dresses at workplace. They are to ensure that the clothing covers up the cleavage, navel, knees and back. They are not allowed to appear for duty in open flat shoes except on doctor's recommendation. They are not allowed to have bright-colored hair in form of natural hair, braids and extensions. Their hair is to be kept neat and presentable. They should have trimmed nails, simple makeup and no tight dresses or skirts. For female public officers, they are required to dress in neat trousers, long-sleeved shirts, jackets and ties. Officers shall not be allowed to put on open shoes during working hours except on health ground recommendation. Officers should dress in dark colors like dark green or brown, navy blue, grey and black suits. Hair should be groomed and generally not permitted. Only black and brown shoes should be worn to the public premises.
All right, so now our Kampala-based correspondent Solomon Serwanja now joins us live from Kampala. He's going to have a brief discussion on those guidelines with human rights activist Rita Atukwasa live from Kampala in Uganda. Very good morning to you, Solomon. These new guidelines must be the subject of fierce discussion in Uganda.
Well, it's making rounds, Akisa. Everyone who is working in public service, think about ladies coming, ladies who have been used of putting on some sort of mini skirts and skimpy dresses and dress to kill to come to office. That is going to be no more. So think about Akisa coming to office in sort of a long dress, to dress decently. And some people are vehemently against it. Well, it's a law that existed since 2010. The men are having mixed reactions equally, saying, what do you mean by decency in this case? And so to speak, this morning we're joined by Rita Atukwasa, who is a human rights activist, to just shed more light on this and what it means for women here in Uganda. Rita, thanks for joining us this morning. Well, you've read the orders from public service, and indeed it's a law that has been silent for quite a while, but it bounces back this time with public service being very, very, very strong on it, saying that the women need to dress decently, and they broke down what the decency meant to that regard. What are your thoughts on this?
In the first place, I would want to say that that's diversionary. We know there are more important issues that public service should be addressing itself to. Issues of corruption, you know that very well, Solomon, every other day. Issues of how can they increase the accessibility for pensioners to get their pension in a timely manner. Issues about improving the workplaces to make them favorable for women to work in. Talk about daycare centers. Talk about breastfeeding rooms. Issues to do with improving the Employment Act and coming out to advocate for the rights of women who work in the public services. But alas, what do we receive? Regulations on dress code, trying to come out strongly to control women's bodies. But we must say that usually such things come up when there are socio-economic strives within the country. And at times it is used by government to disorganize a bit, to throw a different kind of thinking in the population, get them excited. Of course, they start to perceive that their government is working.
So you think that this is some sort of diversionary, and it's going to be different. All right, let's talk about the regulations now that they're there, and they've been there actually since 2010, and the public service seems to be very. It will move fast to ensure that everyone who comes in office in any government office dresses according to their dress code. What are your thoughts on controlling the way women look, the way women, the braids? Think about, I've seen women getting braids with some multicolors, no more. It's either black or nothing, black or brown. I mean, the nails, you cannot, I've seen, by the way, ladies paint one nail different from the other nails. It's sort of fashion. Isn't this limiting fashion for the women in public offices?
It's actually not just about fashion, it's about dignity, it's about respect for women's bodies and not objectifying and eroticizing women's bodies. For instance, we know those laws have been overtaken by times, but we wonder how government thinks of such laws and all of a sudden they start digging them up. Our constitution is very clear on such laws. Article 33 bans every form of discrimination, every practice, any action that portrays women in that manner. It gives us freedom of choice of dress, and for us to be able to come out in the best way possible, want to feel, to portray ourselves. So when you come out to control women and portray your battles on a woman's body as a source of underperformance, then it becomes a human rights issue. And I should say that ladies out there and the men, we shouldn't be rushing to conform to such laws because they are against our rights, and the Constitution says that. Furthermore, you relate this with the anti-pornography law that we had. The president assented to it, and civil society with the lead agencies like CEDOVIP, we did petition the Constitutional Court. One, to define what is indecent and decent dressing.
And that there is the core of this, indecent dressing.
Exactly. So, and there was an injunction actually to the implementation of that act. So anything that looks like that still falls under that category.
So are you going to follow it up, for example, to block this order from taking effect, or are you just going to use the injunction that was issued on that particular anti-pornographic law?
I wouldn't want to comment that. I think that I will leave it to the experts, but I would think so, because what the ministry has done is exactly falls within that context. So therefore, I would actually advise that the females and the men should not rush to it, because it's questionable, it is in the Constitutional Court, and we are waiting for them to address it.
Let's get away from the legalese and talk about how, well, the Minister of Public Service fronts that the way women have been dressing has been disturbing men, knocking them off and disturbing their concentration at workplaces, and, and they didn't see that it was fit for women to dress the way they have been dressing.
Actually, if I was a man out there, I would come out strongly to protest these regulations. It portrays men, you're weak, you're vulnerable, you can't control your emotions, you are kind of incited to have impure thoughts which are regarded in that manner, that when you look at a lady, then you lose your sense of humaneness with the ability to control your emotions. So it does not hold.
But
isn't
it true that sometimes women overdo it, like dress indecently in some offices,
now
so to speak?
You come back to the question that rotates on the table. What is decent? What is indecent? It's very relative. What is decent to you could be indecent to me. So it depends. There are people who think actually the way I'm dressed today, my neck being out, is indecent to them. There are those who say, wow. So it does not measure in any standard, and especially for human rights and the way you want to come out control women's bodies. We should be let free to enjoy ourselves, to feel good about ourselves. So it's actually promotes impunity, violence against women and girls, which government actually should come out strongly to say no to. We have the statistics that come out through UBOS and the Ugandan Demographic Health Survey, telling us 60% of all females above 15 years say that they face violence in their lifetime. So government is outrightly saying it is okay, attack the women. Let them not dress the way they feel like. So it is too far-fetched and ridiculous.
Rita Tukwasa, thank you so much for your time with us. Well, mixed reactions coming through from Uganda. Minister of Public Service, they're insisting that women should dress decently, and so should men. No more miniskirts, no more tight pants. And if you're to put on a jacket, it needs to go below your bottom, so to speak, according to that information that was given by the Ministry of Public Service. Well, Akisa, I don't know how you're dressed right now. I'm sure that if you're dressed indecently and you are here and you're working in a public office, you could actually face some punitive actions, Akisa.
Well, Solomon, trust me, I am in the right colors and the right length. It's you I'm worried about without a jacket. If you were a civil servant, you would have broken the law. Thank you, Solomon, for that. Solomon Serwanja, our correspondent from Kampala, Uganda. And that is a conversation we'll definitely continue having on those new guidelines for civil servants, the non-uniformed ones. Now, Rwanda is